And so we appreciate celebrations and your accomplishments this year. So well done.
Yeah.
And now, Tim has a recognition.
Yeah, I would like to recognize Coach Amanda Eit. Amanda, the Mattoon Community District number 2 is proud to recognize you for being named the 2021-22 Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Some additional recognition for Coach Eit. As we mentioned earlier, a 30-3 record this season, won a regional title, went undefeated in the Apollo Conference. Also captured 2 tournament championships. And Coach Eit responded by receiving this honor and stating it's a testament to our coaching staff and to all the young ladies who have worked so hard to make our program successful. She shared that she's blessed to be surrounded by such great coaches, players, supported by administration, the school district, and our community. Coach Eit has been the Mattoon head varsity girls basketball coach for the past 8 seasons and has accumulated a 159-73 record, which equates to a 70.3% winning percentage. It's the second time Coach Eit has been named the IBCA Coach of the Year, following that same accomplishment in 2016 and 2017. The Mattoon School District, the high school staff, students, families, administration, and on behalf of our school board, want to express our extreme gratitude for and proudness of how you've handled your coaching career here with us, as well as this past season, and your dedication to our students and our communities. Congratulations, Coach Eit. Amanda, anything you'd like to add before we move along?
I'd like to thank the administration and the board for giving me the opportunity to teach and coach in the Mattoon School District. I absolutely love it. I've been very blessed to be able to work with some great coaches and to be able to coach a lot of amazing players. So thank you.
Thank you. Ladies, thank you for joining us this evening, and appreciate you making the trip over after watching the game.
Say hi to your parents.
Okay, you're free to go if you want, unless you want to sit around and listen to the rest of the meeting.
It's so much fun.
Are you saying?
Oh, this is great.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, bye now. Thanks.
I love that they ask
Can
we go? I have not received any slips for non-agenda visitors wishing to speak. So I'll move on to item 3, consent agenda for board action. 3.1, approval of minutes. 3.1A, regular board meeting, March 8, 2022. 3.2, financial payment of bills. 3.2A, presentation of bills for approval. 3.2B, monthly financial reports by fund. And 3.2C, fiscal year 22 budget to date report. Item 3.3, enrollment report. 3.4, approval for membership in Illinois High School Association, IHSA, and Illinois Elementary School Association, IESA. 3.5, approval of MHS Student Council to attend the Illinois Association of Student Council State Conference, May 5th through 7th, 2022 in Springfield. 3.6, approval of MHS JROTC trip to Western JROTC Archery Championship in Sandy, Utah, April 27th through May 3rd, 2022. 3.7, approval of MHS JROTC Leadership Challenge Summer Camp, June 20th through the 24th at Marseille National Guard Training Center in Marseille, Illinois. 3.8, Freedom of Information Report. I need a motion and a second to approve that, please. Motion by Ashley,
Second.
second by Susie. Any questions, comments? Please call roll.
Overton?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Skidmore.
Yes. Item 4, unfinished business.
I didn't know if you wanted to read that for,
Okay, 4.1, board discussion of board policy 6.60 related to the National Sex Education Standards provision. And Mr. Condon has a presentation.
yeah, I'd just like to kind of update the board on some information that the board's received and just kind of walk through this before allowing the board the opportunity to discuss. Because the board has not had that chance to do in public session because this has not come up as a discussion point previous to now. So as we walk through this presentation, we're going to share some options that the board is aware of, and then just kind of walk through that and then allow the board to discuss that. And then item 4.2 is kind of an unfamiliar item to our board, but we'll have to pick back up what was laid on the table at the February 8th meeting. And then item 4.3 will actually call for a motion and a second for board action to then determine how the board would direct the administration to move forward. So just to kind of run through those pretty quickly. So a quick overview of the organizer. What we'll describe here is shown here on the first slide. And talking about the history, in December, the board received the official copies of the board policies through the Illinois Association of the School Boards Policy Reference Education Subscription Service. This is actually supported through the Illinois Association of School Boards, IASB, of which the board is a contributing member of. In January of 2022, the board policies were presented to the board at the January 11th board meeting. And then in February, the board action was then taken on all policies except the board policy 660 related to the National Sex Education Standards provision. So that was the item that was tabled at that time on February 8th. To offer some understanding around the current practice, the board has previously approved the health curriculum that was adopted via the standing local process and procedure that included teachers, parents, developed, reviewed, and proposed the new health curriculum. It followed the curriculum development, and the curriculum was presented to the curriculum coordinating committee, which has been established in the district for many years, including student and parent representatives, teachers, and administration. The curriculum coordinating committee approved the health curriculum, and it was presented to the school board for approval, and the board adopted that current curriculum December of 2011. So that's the current practice. And then all students are offered the opportunity to receive the comprehensive health instruction, but parents and or guardians can opt their student out of instruction. So in order to present this to the board, we suggest 3 potential options. Option 1 would be to adopt the National Sex Education Standards as they exist. The pros of this process would be for expediency and ease. As you can see, we also recommend a list of cons. We typically do not adopt national standards without local review, input, and modification. This board may remember in 2010, there were the Common Core curriculum, or the Common Core standards that were issued from the national perspective, those of which were adopted and revised at the local level. The unrealistic number of standards associated with this topic As you can see there, that there are 118 total topics in our English language arts, K through 12, 137 total for math, K through 12. And this option, if the board were to select adopting all of these standards, it would incorporate 162 topics for sex education alone. This does not match with our standard curricular procedures. Like I mentioned before, we have never fully adopted standards in this manner. Instead, we use the Curriculum Coordinating Committee, or CCC. The Illinois State Board of Education has until August 1st of 2022 to provide Illinois school districts with guidance, including Illinois standards derived from the national standards. This also, as a con, we believe this disregards the community context. As we know, this is a polarizing issue that deserves discourse. Adopting the standards without demonstrating collaborative conversation would not be the best for our students, families, or families who have not had input that they would like to consider. So that would be option 1. Option 2 would be the converse. Recommend no sex education. The pro of this, it removes the debate over what is appropriate instruction. The cons of this include it does not align with research regarding effective instruction for all. Research suggests students benefit from some education on these topics, and to assume all parents will provide instruction puts some students at risk. Another con includes the difficulty in teasing out the required components of Aaron's Law. This legislation was passed to equip children with knowledge and tools to protect themselves from sexual predators and unsafe behaviors. And the third con that we've identified takes a step backwards in the terms of programming and services that we currently offer students. The third option would be to use a local process to modify the national standards. As you can see here, this is actually included in the board policy in which the board has received, that the statute states that schools may choose and adopt the age and developmentally appropriate, medical accurate, complete, culturally appropriate, inclusive, and trauma-informed comprehensive personal health and safety and comprehensive sexual health education curriculum that meets the specific needs of their community. All instruction and materials, including materials provided or presented by outside consultants, community groups, or organizations, may not conflict with the provisions of this section. So I'd like for Dr. Hill to kind of share what the process of this would look like, as we've been through this before, as Dr. Hill has also presented those standards and or competencies at the February 8th board meeting. So
Sure.
Christy, will you please share?
Yep, absolutely. So the process we use locally is that when national standards are proposed, we take those to a group of stakeholders that involves educators and parents and when appropriate students. And we look at the standards and we make decisions about locally what we feel is most important and aligns with those standards and what's reasonable and realistic as well. And then we make recommendations in terms of what that scope will look like. So that group makes the recommendation after typically hours and multiple days of work. They make a recommendation to the Curriculum Coordinating Committee that you guys are familiar with. And the CCC asks questions, gives input, and sometimes they say, you know, we need a little bit more information about this, or what would that look like? Or have you thought about, and then sometimes it goes back to that group and they make additional revisions. Sometimes they say, we think it would be great if you would add a couple different voices in. So then we do that. So that process goes back and forth until the Curriculum Coordinating Committee says, yes, we think this is good to go. And in most cases, like with ELA, math, science, and social studies, that's a pretty expedient process. Most of the time, it's kind of like, these are the topics that we think we need to have students learn K through 12, and it's aligned with the standards. And so then that recommendation is made from the CCC to go to the board. So then I think it was maybe February that we did that with ELA, math, science, and social science, where you all had a map, remember, it was like 1 through 137, and we were so proud because it's so much work all on one document, and it's a new way of presenting that to the board. And so then the board has the choice, we discuss it. You typically have a month to review the proposed curriculum, ask questions, and then you all will vote whether or not that's the curriculum you want to be taught. So we would follow that same process. We would have a group of local constituents, and they would look and make some recommendations on what is developmentally and locally appropriate in terms of their expertise and backgrounds. And then that recommendation would go to the CCC, and they would say yes, no, and their recommendation then would carry forward to the board, where you would again then have the document in front of you. You'd have a month to review, and then you would make a recommendation as to whether or not that would be the adopted curriculum for the district. So that's the way that process typically unfolds.
So when would this process take place? We as an administrative team, would recommend waiting until the receipt of ISDE's proposed standards to begin the process of that timeline, which is anticipated on August 1st. And what would we do in the meantime? In the meantime, the district would remain in status quo with our current health curriculum and the parent and guardian option to opt out. The pros of this approach is it increases local control through collaborative determination of what standards our community deems appropriate. Parents who wish to opt out still have that option, but students whose parents may not teach this information at home would receive instruction. There are 3 opportunities, as Christy outlined: the input, feedback, and approval, with 3 different groups comprised of all stakeholder representation: the local curriculum group, the curriculum coordinating committee, and then to this board to make that determination. The cons of this approach, which were considered a pro on the first slide of just adopting, is it takes a considerable amount of time to develop that shared understanding and communicating this process clearly. So the recommendation from the administrative team is for us to consider option 3, to use local processes and local control to offer those procedures to modify the National Sex Ed standards. The next steps, this is where the board would have the opportunity to discuss these options under this agenda item 4.1. Following that discussion, no action is necessary on this agenda item. Then agenda item 4.2 would require the motion, the second, and the roll call vote to take it up. And then agenda item 4.3 would then require the motion. I know this seems redundant, but from Robert's Rule of Order perspective, we believe that this is the correct way to make those considerations to move forward. So a member would need to make a motion to approve one of the options, following a second. And then after that second, the board may then again discuss those options. Again, that would all be under item 4.3 on the agenda. And at the conclusion of that discussion, all members will be asked to vote via roll call, and the administrative team would work to carry out the board's recommendation at that point. So with that, I'd like to give the opportunity for the board to discuss.
Okay, so you say, as far as anticipate the ISB's proposed standards, anticipate week 1. So is that saying that it would not go into effect the 22-23 school year? Because you're not going to have time to meet and do all that before school starts, correct?
I think we would need to determine when it comes out, what it would take for us to then bring before the board. We'd have to kind of back map what at that point, what are the Illinois standards being recommended to the school district, to then determine with that local group what would be acceptable for us in our community.
But
So it would not, it couldn't, there's no way we could turn that.
happen 22-23.
I would say there's no way that it would happen in August of 22, no.
Okay,
But
that's
I
what I was
think
thinking.
it would take considerable time.
Absolutely. I would want it to take considerable time if we chose option 3. Okay, so if we were to vote to modify the standards, I've been going through these standards, the mapping and all that. There's a lot in like K through 5 that it's just in all of it, there's so much that is not appropriate in our culture here, or really in my
You're
opinion,
talking
in-
about the national
I'm
standards.
talking about the national
Yeah,
standards,
yeah,
yes, I'm
yeah.
talking about the national standards. So these committees, they have the right to nixname all of it, or maybe just one or two, like, for instance, be able to describe characteristics of a friend. That is a line item that they can accept, but then not anything else.
Yes.
So there are some good things in here that would be beneficial for our kids, but there's a lot of bad.
Okay.
A lot of bad. So I just wanna make sure that we can say no, or the committees can say no, and they'll bring it to us. And if we don't like it, whenever it finally reaches us, we can say no.
Correct.
And then we can, and it'll be sent back to them to
With ample,
revise.
with ample time to review everything in there, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so, at this point, the administrative team needs direction from the board.
Yes.
And then to determine how to move forward with that with a local committee,
Mhm.
or if another option is selected this evening, then how do we start the removal of or the
Okay.
acceptance of all?
Okay.
So that piece of that, and I'll let Christy speak to this too, but that piece of that is gonna take considerable time for our staff to learn, read through the standards, understand what we currently offer, what we may need to consider adapting and revising, but additionally, to your point, what we would not accept from a local context perspective. So Christy, anything you want to add with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's at minimum a 6-month process at minimum, and then there's CCC, and then it comes to the board, then you have a month to review, and then we would be taking action. So
You're
it is
talking
an
to me.
involved, and that's a topic like ELA,
Uh-huh.
where it's like, maybe more cut and dry.
I just kind of like to land the plane a little bit. I think it's important that we just pay attention to past practice in that tune. And we have never, ever adopted all of the standards offered by the state board or the national. We just haven't, because we don't have the time and nobody's funding it except us. My thought is, for heaven's sake, wait for those crazy standards to come and then take your time, for heaven's sake. Don't feel like you're in a rush under any circumstances. They're not gonna find you. I just don't agree at all that, I just want everybody relax and take their
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, this is gonna be a timely thing,
It's a
and it
big
needs to
deal.
be. It needs to be. We need to do right by our kids,
Yeah.
and that's take the
And
time.
our
If the
parents,
CCC
you know.
recommends something that we as a board don't like, and we say, look, everything's okay, but this, and this, then they're gonna have to, I know it's more work for them, and that's unfortunate, but they're gonna have to go back and look at it and say, okay, we need to tweak this somehow.
There is a board member that sits on the CCC though. Yeah.
Mhm, right.
That'll kind of,
Right, but I mean, just because they present something to us, doesn't mean that's it. We have a chance, and then they can, it's, again, more time, but I think we need to do it the right way, and if that's what happens, that's what happens.
What about an opt-in rather than an opt-out? Like everybody gets a form sent home with them, and it's just automatically assumed that they've opted out unless they sign this form that says they opt in. Rather than the opposite, where I send a form home and my kid's lackadaisical and keeps that form in his mailbox or whatever. If we don't have a signature from the parent, that kid can't sit through that. That'd be my suggestion if option 3 is taken up, is an opt-in rather than an opt-out.
I've asked this, of you before, but I don't know why, well, I guess I do, but I would prefer that we keep it status quo for now and not vote on it until after the committees have already met and then brought it back to us. I just just in all good consciousness, I don't know, what they're going to accept and what they're not going
Do
to
you
accept.
mean you don't want to vote on option 1, 2, or 3 today?
No.
I see, okay.
With us not having state, the ISB, we're not anticipating that till August 1st. Can we table it till we get those? Is that possible? I mean, we know it's gonna be a year anyway. So until we see what the state is recommending, why can't we just wait till we get the state standards?
I'd make a motion for that.
Well, but also I'd like to see the committees meet first. I mean, this is, to me, is totally different from the,
So let me ask a clarifying question. So instead of selecting an option, if the board wishes to continue to table it, what direction are you providing the administrative team to move forward with? That's what I believe we're seeking action from the board to then carry that
I
directive
understand,
out.
and I'm all in favor of option 3, frankly. I don't know about anybody else, but
Well, for somebody who hasn't been a part of, and I don't think Heidi has either, I'm not sure about the rest of you, but curriculum committee, how is that formed? And you said a parents group is put together, if I'm in the audience and want to be in that committee,
Yeah.
how do I become a person?
oh, good question.
Okay, so, I think there's a couple questions there. The first question about the development, so the 3 opportunities, right? There's the group that has the standards and they start developing curriculum. Typically, that's educators. Typically, that is what that consists of. On a topic like this, our team has talked about how important it would be to have multiple voices in that initial development, because it is different, and we recognize that. So having multiple voices in that development team, and the way those teachers are typically, we ask, who would like to participate in math curriculum development, and some people are all about it. Some people are like, no, thank you, I'll wait and let you tell me what you guys decide. So we would probably follow the same process here where people were nominated. It's gonna be our health teachers, probably some science teachers, and then we would open that up. Usually we work with our principals to say, do you have parents that would be interested, that sort of thing. That's how it's typically done. CCC is nominated, and people serve a 2-year term. So that's a nomination process, and there is a parent representative from every building.
One
One from each
from
building.
building.
Okay. And that's more of a, it's not a governing committee, but it's more of a policy recommendation committee. So they're not involved really at all in the building of things. They're kind of more the gatekeeper of what comes to you. So that group asks questions, and most of the time it's not things of this level, right? Like the closest thing to that we've had that's had some real emotion attached to it lately was the capstone requirements, when we talked about capstone. But most of the time, it's kind of like, we're gonna add some SEL standards, what do you all think? People ask questions, it gives them a chance to talk with, other parents from those schools, and then bring those questions with them. And so the way that parents get on that group is, principals usually reach out and ask if they're interested people. And then that committee usually meets 4 times a year. This year we've met more. But that's how you get on. And I think from the board perspective, Tim, is that something that you and Michelle nominate, right? Like which board members on what committee?
Michelle selects which board member at the, I think it was last April.
I say, well, I asked them, what committees would you like to serve?
Okay, so that's how the board member is. We also have high school student representatives on the CCC. For those of you who've been on there, Janaea Carter is our high school student right now. She's vice chair, so she's actually run a couple of the meetings. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, so my question on piggybacking off of his is, can that parent piece be larger due to the nature of the subject?
Well, and we may, as a team, if we go with option 3, we may say that there's even a pre-step before the curriculum work.
Okay.
And that would be just basically bringing people together and giving people an opportunity to share with us, what their thoughts are related to what's been proposed. And we would be happy to start that work and have people voice their concerns and give people an opportunity to share what they like, don't like, and then that could go to the next group. So there's at minimum 3 groups, But that's not to say that if there are a lot of people who express an interest and it's not really feasible for them to take multiple days off work to sit and actually like build the units, but they just want to be heard in terms of like, yeah, no. There could be a step before that where we could gather some additional input.
So Tim, what's your recommendation as the superintendent?
Option 3. Was that not clear? I'm sorry.
Well, I just said it.
You said the administration team, I'm asking what your, so I have a very different opinion than I think has been expressed. And receiving the PowerPoint today at 11 o'clock at work, I'm like, how am I gonna look at this? How am I gonna work through this to come today? And so I've asked for the sex ed curriculum, and I also asked for the opt-out form. When I look at that, it says opting out of like comprehensive education, which includes abstinence and contraception. Then I look at 6th, 7th, 8th, and high school. I don't see those words. I don't know which lesson it is. I don't know what we're talking about with those. And again, in all transparency, my kids did not go to school here from K-8. So I don't have any experience with that. So I am completely aligned with.
Can I interrupt real quick, just for transparency as well? You did receive an email on February 24th, and then again on March 25th
100%.
with
Yes.
all of this. So it's not like this was just received, because this is the same, I just want to be clear that it was the same information that was provided to the board back in February.
So I agree with you, John, with the opting out. I'm worried how many parents receive this. I'm wondering about accessibility, and I'm wondering how many kids would bring it home, if that's the piece. So the opt-out, I have concerns about. So I like the opt-in. Like, I like giving control back to the parents, back to the families to say, I would like to opt in. I want to remind all of us that we got in this position because the governor gave us 2 options. It's an all or nothing plan. Like, you're going to adopt all of this K-12 if you want a curriculum, or you're going to opt out of all of it, like that. So we're put in a very precarious place. I think there are really big concerns, especially K-5 curriculum. Do I have confidence in that our curriculums may do that and overlook that and make the right decisions and it comes back? But when we look at, as a psychologist and as an educator, I thoroughly believe in education. I am not an I worked for SACUS, I see them in the curriculum, I was a legal advocate. I am not a hater on education and sex ed and making sure, but I am worried how this is leaving the home of parents and my morality, my attitude, my values, and coming into school. And depending on educators that may or may not be, this is their wheelhouse, that are now providing curriculum. That includes kindergartners with consent, 2nd grade with gender identity, 5th grade with hormone blockers, sex assigned to birth and gender identity, understanding transgender, gender expansive. Again, that could be taken out, but today that's all part of the national standards that we're educating K-5 students. And so, and things just go on, right, as we advance to higher levels. I have grave concerns, and I am absolutely, and I stand at section number 2 or option number 2. No, I'd rather pull out the Aaron's Law. I'd rather give parents the opportunity to have those rights than to adopt a national standard or parts of a national standard with our curriculum.
I would be open to option 3 if and only if there was a opt-in. And that's kind of where I got to put my foot on this at this point. I want parent signature. If the curriculum committee wants to go forward and research this, I'm open to the idea, but I would prefer a parent have more control and a signature be required for whatever curriculum is presented.
Will it be with one teacher? Not every class that they go to, there's not gonna be something in there about
Good question.
sex ed, or it's gonna be contained to a class, correct?
Health or PE.
Yeah, health or PE or something like that, because there's people out there said, I've been hearing saying, oh, well, it's gonna be in every classroom, every teacher's gonna teach this. And I'm like, I don't think so, but let me double check, you know? I'm I mean, that's just something that.
Yeah, I mean, Christie, you want to respond to that? Do you want me to? In regards to, I think what Christie described as, we would likely ask teachers teaching health, teaching science to be a part of these discussions,
Right.
just because there's some anatomy pieces, physiology that's involved, but like additionally, it's more from a health related perspective. So,
So they go to math class, they will not be taught something about
Correct.
sex ed. Thank you.
correct. And I think our math instructors are okay with just sticking with math.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, that's the way I want it. So Heidi, you said that, do you have confidence in our teams? I mean.
I
that's-
do, but I'm opposed to national standards. I think there's so much stuff, and I think you articulated it well when you said all the things that are concerning to me. The other part I wanted to know is, does the state, are we agreeing to collect data for the state if we opt in? Does the state get gender information? Do they get sexual orientation information? Is that a requirement of this program, K-12?
That is not. You may be referencing something else that was just put on a stay, and Dave, you may know a little bit more about this, but it was just recently determined that information, the state was looking to pilot a process of collecting that information, and that may be what you're referencing.
We're not involved in that pilot.
Yeah.
And that would be my recommendation not to.
So if we adopt this, that's not a requirement that students would have to
No, that's all.
provide.
No. That's student data management system stuff.
And I agree, there are definitely things that I don't agree with.
Oh,
Absolutely.
ridiculous.
What we can't change is the national standard. I know that. But we can't change, everything that's going on, in any other district, with this board. But we can make sure if we adopt number 3 with John's recommendation, and I'm okay with that. With the understanding that we can come back and if the committee has something there we don't like, it doesn't go. That's just the way, I'm not trying to be a horse's hind end, and I probably got educators that's gonna go, I don't wanna be a part of that committee if it's gonna keep having to come back and be tweaked, but it might have to be. Because there's just things in there that I will not vote to have discussed, especially K through 5 or 6.
I don't think
Anyway.
there's anybody in this town that would want
Yeah.
some of those standards. They're bizarre. They're just too inappropriate, I think. for
But I
children.
do think we need to give the team direction tonight on where they need to
I do.
start going with it. Otherwise, I think we're doing them an injustice if we don't, because they're gonna come back again, basically the same thing, going, okay, now what have you decided? So, we still have the power to nix it, once it comes to us. We're just giving them the guidance to say, look, let's go see what the committee comes up with. Let's get them started and get this, ball rolling.
Has anybody on the administrative team actually spoke to the teachers to see how they feel about this? And,
Rebecca,
Hi, I'm a high school health teacher.
Speak up, girl.
I mean, I was curious.
I actually, just as an example, I sent an email to all parents instead of a paper copy in the fall, along with the actual slideshow, any videos that I was gonna show, and they're all,
good job.
birth and growth. And I also want you to consider that while it's sex ed, it's also growth and development, which is so important for our kids to understand, especially, and I guess I need to speak just to my level because and so there are definitely things that need to be in there. I agree with you. There are things that they're asking us to do that are not appropriate for our community and our kids and their different ages. I don't know, whatever. But there is stuff that is very important. I also think that we have wise people in our community.
No,
We adopted the original curriculum because parents and students and teachers got together and created it. And it may be that you go through the national standard, people go through the national standards and we land where we are, or, oh wait, look, this is a really good piece. We didn't think about that before. but now that is appropriate, let's add that, or, you know, or whatever. I think that we have wise people that can make good decisions. I think we have parents and CCC and board that will do the best for our kids. I have a concern with just opt-in, because that's the exact concern that you have with opt-out. We have a lot of parents that may not reply, and oftentimes they are the parents of kids who don't have guidance at home. Does that make sense? Who need this curriculum because nobody's guiding them at home. And so I fear that nobody will reply to that. And I had no one opt out in the fall. And I had kids come in and say, my mom said you send an email, or my dad said you send an email, and they said I need this. But I also think they could see exactly what I was teaching, and there's nothing hidden. It's all, here's my slides, here's the videos I'm showing, here's all of it. You know, be comfortable with it, and then know what we're talking about in class, so you can talk about that with your kids and build from there if you feel like I left something out, you know? But yeah, I worry about opt-in, opt-out all the time, because I think we miss some group anyway. I wish we could just almost make it part of high school registration or something, where it's a question and you have to answer it. You know?
Yeah.
Already wrote it down.
Because then everybody gets it, and we know at that point, as we go into it, that we need to provide something else for these students, and it's not, you know, that they can do in time when they're not in there. But
I would also like for an awful lot of educators to do what you do and present, you know, all the information to parents ahead of time, if that's possible.
well, I think just to go on a whole other thing, but
Sure.
all of my stuff is available because it's in Schoology.
Which I am so unfamiliar with
Parents,
that.
yeah, and parents and students have access to it. So anything, and my realm is driver ed and health. Anything I teach, you have access to.
I love that.
You can see it, you can see, you know, except for, you know, the tests are closed until I open them, but everything else is available for people to look at and, you know, and let me know what they think about it or anything. So they always have access to.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for your input, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Glad you came.
Okay, so item 4.2, board action to take board policy 6.60 related to the national sex education standards provision from the table from February 8th, 2022. I will need a motion and a second on this to take it off the table. Motion by Ashley, second
Yes.
by Gary. Any questions?
Okay, I repeat, what are we gonna do with this now?
We're taking, we tabled it last month.
And we're going to do what now?
Taking it
Untabled.
off the table it so that there can be a vote.
We're gonna work on it. That's what you mean. Okay. I thought we were gonna table it further until.
No,
until
take it
August.
off the
Okay.
table. So, Krista, will you call roll?
Braun,
Yes.
Hedges,
You untabled it.
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Shepley,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Scanlon.
Yes. Okay, moving on now to 4.3, board action on board policy 6.60, related to the national sex education standards provision on board policy 6.60. I need a motion and a second on that. And that's to approve the policy. So, we need a motion and a second.
Wait a minute.
On one of the three.
Motion.
Okay, you want 1, 2, or 3, is that what you're asking?
Or a motion that's been recommended.
Okay,
The board has, the administrative team has recommended
Can
option
you
3.
recommend it to go to a curriculum committee without taking any of these options?
And that's what I asked.
That's what
If
she
we
asked.
don't give them the direction to use 1, 2, or 3, they don't know what to do. If we give them, it sounds like if you want it to go to the CCC, you're wanting them to use option 3, because they can select and choose what they want, and they can use what's already in place.
No, what I had stated that I would like us to not do the policy or the option tonight, send it to the CCC and a parent committee first, then bring it back to vote on after we can see in black and white.
Is that
Okay.
enough direction for the administrator?
Personally, I think we would appreciate there being an option, if the option is to amend one of those presented to include an opt-in, then that can be a motion from the board, but I feel like we're firmly planted in midair if we're not given direction from the board this evening, because I guess the board could have elected to not complete 4.2 and pick it up off the table, and then it would have stayed tabled until the board desired for that to occur.
I'd like to make a motion to table,
Put it back on the table.
to rescind my last bill, to table that motion.
Okay, so instead of 4.3, to vote on the policy, I have a motion to table option or policy 660 until, do you have any?
Well, I'm sorry, let's just, I make a motion for for a vote on, option 3.
Okay,
I'll second that. Option 3.
motion by John, second by Susie.
May
To,
I clarify? Is that with your opt-in?
I would like it to be in some sort of form as a question that parents are.
Okay, that's why I wanted to make sure it was
At
in your motion.
registration.
That's why I wanted to make sure it was in your motion.
Yeah, whatever. Registration will work.
okay. Any other questions?
Krista, are you good? You understand what we're doing?
Okay, would you call roll, please?
Hedges made the motion, Braun seconded.
Braun, yeah.
All right, Hedges,
Yes.
Larson,
No.
Keckley,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Skidmore.
No. Thank you. Okay, item 5, reports and recommendations of the business manager. Mr. Sherman, you are up.
All right, Tim, are you gonna hit that?
Yep.
We've got several things on the agenda this evening. The first one is board presentation and update on the high school athletic
Oh, yeah.
enhancements. And we have some fellows here from Burns and Jones, and Tim's getting the slide presented. So I'm gonna direct you to what's on the screen here because there's a drone video. And with that, Dalton, I don't know which one of you guys want to speak first, but go ahead and you've got the floor.
Oh, we'll just both go up there.
Okay, sure.
So, yeah, this was actually taken by one of our future lift facilitators this past weekend. So this gives you a quick glimpse of what the football field, the turf is going to look like. And as a disclaimer, I think our communication specialist put this out on social media, but they aren't sewn in yet. The letters aren't sewn in yet. So if you see that little crooked A, we're just laying that out.
So I'm good. Wait. One word.
It's all one word, right? There you go, guys.
Thanks, Tim.
Where's the mouse?
There we go.
You're in.
Awesome. I'm Dalton Pafford. I've been the project manager for everything going on at the school that I'm sure you guys are tired of seeing after the past 7 months. Joe Schuett is our sports construction consultant who is involved with the pre-construction phases and helped get this thing in motion. So I've taken it over for him since July, once we got the funding for this, and this became a real thing. Talking about our team, as I said, Joe helped get this thing off the ground. I'm the project manager. Zach McCauley has been the foreman on site. If you walked around it, he's got a big yellow umbrella hat that you can see from a mile away. He's been building the thing. And then Jameson Shealy has kind of been in the background. He's our division manager and oversees all of our projects. Maybe. The summarized scope of the project, we're doing a new turf football field with a shock pad underneath for extra support and cushion protection to the players. A new turf baseball infield with a new backstop, new synthetic turf soccer field, new running track and field events, new post-tension concrete tennis courts, and then some parking lot and campus drainage revisions, soccer and baseball lighting, perimeter tennis and track fence, and then a lot of site concrete around everything. What's happened on site so far? So if you, as you're gonna see in some of the pictures, and if you've been around the site, we have the track asphalt done. Football field, as Tim just showed, is green. It's not complete. The layers won't look like that, but I'm pretty sure Dave said he likes them that way. Baseball backstop is up. Baseball infield turf is complete. Sod is down. It's knitting down right now to get ready for the first game on April 19th. Soccer field is complete and ready for play. Tennis concrete is complete, just needs surfacing. And then all of our site concrete is complete on the Barry Jones scope. So this is from our last presentation where we were at when we came on October 12th. So we hadn't done the track asphalt yet. Football field was still in the middle of being rocked. Baseball field hadn't been touched, minus the demo, the backstop. Soccer field hadn't been touched yet. We hadn't touched the tennis courts at all. We had our two massive ponds, which are still there, thankfully. And then here is what has happened since then. So over here is our tennis prep when we were getting ready to pour the concrete. So this was the base work, getting ready for that. This is stabilization for the soccer field. So basically Illinois has really good farming dirt, which is terrible to build on. So we take lime, basically mix it in with the soil and creates a cement base, which gives you something solid so you don't have to worry about your field sinking later on and you won't have any ruts. So that's what this process is going on here. And then this is our guys grading for the baseball turf, getting down to subgrade for that. This is the asphalt paving process for the track. So Hal Asphalt, local company here that I'm sure plenty of you guys are familiar with, helped us out with this. Did an awesome job, knocked it out, looks really good out there. Parking lot collection pipe. So part of the project was to fix some drainage issues in the parking lot. The ROTC building, I believe, had some flooding issues. So we put in some more inlets, kind of slope the parking lot away from that ROTC building to fix that flooding issue. And then here's the soccer curb being poured around the field, and then some of the rock get put in here where the collection pipe runs from pond to pond and then to the outflow into the city storm system. Football turf install, as you can see, this is all green now, but here's what it looked like when it was all going down. And then this is the base rock that sits underneath all the baseball turf now. So there's over 6 inches of rock in there to get the water to drain down into the collection pipe, eventually flow through the ponds and out to the city storm system. And then here is the turf crew grooming, putting in the infill, getting the soccer field ready. Side overview, here is where we are today. So as you can see, the football field is all green. Letters still need to be stitched in, still need to get our numbers in, still need to get track surface down. Concrete is down here, waiting on bleachers and press box that's through Upchurch, not through us. Believe, you got a date on that one, Dave?
Delivered in 1st of May, hopefully done.
Gotcha. Baseball infield turf up here, that's all done. Sod is down. We just need to get the warning track seeded. We're gonna have some straw mat down temporarily while that seed grows, but hoping to have that all ready for handoff, all the fence back up by the end of next week. Soccer field in the background here, tennis court still need to be surfaced. Got a little more prep work on it, but hoping to start on that in mid-April too, hopefully within the next couple weeks, getting these colored. The fence is going up currently around the tennis courts as well. Soccer field, like we said, is ready to go. Baseball field, just need to get the batting cage complete, put the net up, and finish putting the mounds down on the pool pen. There's also a couple filler pads that are on site that we need to throw in there for the backstop as well. But that is pretty much the site overview as of today. Schedule moving forward, pretty much all of this will be wrapped up in April is the plan. If you guys can get stop raining up here, that would help us a lot. So, football turf, we'll have that complete end of April. Track surfacing is gonna follow football turf. As soon as that's done, so the track guys are out of the way, we can get that road out of the way. It's gonna be a gray track with black exchange zones around that new field. It's gonna look awesome. Tennis surfacing, hoping to get that down in the next couple weeks. Site fence installation has started, so they started on the tennis courts. Gonna work on the baseball field, get that ready for that April 19th game, and then start putting the fence around the track and football field. And then site restoration, as you can see, we've got a mud pit out there. So our guys are coming in, they hope to start on that warning track tomorrow, get that all seeded, and then start cleaning up the site, getting the dirt out of there, start seeding everything, making it look real nice. And that is pretty much all we had. Wanted to keep it short and sweet for you guys. Didn't want to take up too much of your time. Just want to say thank you again. This has been an awesome project. Tim, Dave, Tom, Dustin, they've all been great to work with. The entire community has been awesome so far. Joe, you got anything you want to throw in?
No, like you said, really thank you for putting your trust in Vernon Jones and allowing us to build this project for you guys. And your commitment to your students' athletic facilities is inspiring and awesome to see. And this is one of the largest high school projects that we've done in the state of Illinois, and will be one of the most impressive facilities in the entire state of Illinois for athletes. So it's been cool to see the progress. It's been cool to see Dalton constantly providing me with updates. I'm down here every once in a while to see what's up with you guys, but I'm definitely down to see a game at some point. With you guys and it's just been a great experience and all great work with.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
One of the big things when we started this project was the drainage.
Yep.
Obviously, we have a drainage problem throughout the city of Macon, as anybody can attest to after the big 3-inch rain over 24 hours, but I drive by, matter of fact, I'm in the construction area enough that the guys quit asking who I am, to see if I need to be back there or not. But my question is, when I went around the back, all I seen as far as at the corner of 27th and Dakota, where it used to flood out, all I seen was stuff out of the field, where it washed in clear a block away. The ponds, obviously, the next day were almost empty already, but the drainage has done its job, it looked like to me.
It has.
Correct?
Yep. And a couple neighbors came over, asked about it. The ponds are doing what they're supposed to do. They are pretty much a temporary holding bank as the water gets from the fields to the outflow. If those ponds weren't there, then you'd still have all that water from the fields rushing straight onto the street. So we'll keep an eye on them. Of course, we're not gonna just bail, but as of right now, there's been no issues with them.
Yeah, and the fields I'm talking about is the farmer's field, washed all everything out.
Yeah, you
Nothing that we can control, but, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, appreciate that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I live right behind there, and there was no drainage in front of my house, but it was all from the field at the end of 25th Street. That came down, I mean, the city even had to come and get all the corn cobs out of the street, there was so many.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't see any coming this way.
Well, that's good. That's what we're
Very
shooting
good.
for.
Thank you.
And this was, I want to say that the drainage part of this project was well over 10% of the total budget. So there's a significant investment, to Joe's point about the investment that the board has made in the future athletic facilities for our students and our community, and just the game day experiences I think that we're going to be able to provide for our community and our families. But I guess I'll look to Dave and to Mike. Do we have any water issues in the JRTC room following that?
No.
Because that was the biggest concern and why the need to invest in the drainage to begin with. So, I think we appreciate that it's working, and you can see pretty quickly if it's not, but that's significant. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay,
It's cold.
5.2 is the next piece, which somewhat goes along with what Dalton was talking about. We had bid opening for the high school sports lot, parking lot, which is directly to the northwest of the football field as you're coming into that area. We had that bid opening on March 29th. We had a pre-bid meeting the week before that on March 22nd that all of the bidders needed to attend. As you can see, we had 3 bids. In the first time in like 20 some years, concrete is cheaper than asphalt. That has never happened before, mostly due to the oil prices and such. But you can see what the three bids were. We had a base bid A for asphalt, a base bid B for concrete. We had 3 bids of Bartels, Fuchs Contractors, and J.B. Esker and Sons. The low bid here, J.B. Esker and Sons, $478. You can see what the area that I'm talking about here. Obviously, this is the high school coming in off of Walnut. This is the lot that we're talking about. You can see it there. You can also see this area here. So we're talking about the parking. We're also going to be doing some lighting here. There's a couple light poles that's a part of the project that will be in that. Due to the cost of oil, the concrete bid obviously is the least for all 3 of the options that were shown there. Upchurch Group, as Dalton talked about before, as well as the administration recommends that we award the bid to J.B. Esker and Sons for the base bid of $478,000. So that would be our recommendation.
I have a motion and a second to approve. Gary Capley, second. John Hedges. Any questions, comments? Please call the roll.
Larson,
Yes.
Kepley,
Yes.
Overton,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Hedges, Skidmore.
Yes.
Thank you. Kind of want to roll into the next piece, but also to sort of tie that up. I've been showing this slide for about the last 3 months of the process and the progress and where we are looking, what the expenses might be for each of the projects, where the revenue sources might be for each of those. Starting off, this is a similar slide to what you've seen in the last couple of months. The lift project, obviously across the street. The anticipated expenses are a little bit north of 12.7 million. We're looking at revenues of the debt certificates of 8.9 and grants that we'll receive in 22-23 school year of the remainder of that. The next piece on here is what Dalton was just talking about. You can see the cost of that and the revenue sources. This is the $2 million grant from the state that we will be hopefully receiving when we get all the paperwork turned in and submitted on that. A lot of hoops to jump through on that one. The sports center, which we bid out earlier, that's the current wood shop and the sports center that will become the locker room and the weight room, and we're going to add on some restrooms on the east side of that. Cost of that is projected to be 2.6, or that is the actual cost that the board received the bids and accepted the bids on that. The revenue source for that will be sales tax in FY22 and sales tax in FY23. Our fiscal year ends on June 30th. The 400 wing we just did last month. Again, the board accepted the bid of 1.4 million. This came in roughly about $500,000 higher than what we had anticipated when we first submitted that process. So I did some little shifting around here of the revenue sources. 600,000 for the debt certs that we took out back in last fall, and then the remaining share of that coming out of sales tax dollars from 22 and 23. And then the sports lot that you just approved, $478,000 to be paid with the sales tax dollars for 22 and 23. Now, you might remember in previous months, there had been another parking lot. This is the parking lot directly to the south of the high school. Because of, obviously, money, the number coming in on this other project, $500,000 higher than what we had anticipated. But even after talking to Upchurch and talking to some of the other contractors, with the settling of everything that's going on in that area, with the rock and the pavement, and the cuts and the drainage and all of that kind of thing, it has been discussed that it's probably better to leave that alone for about a year, just to let things settle, instead of doing a parking lot and then having to come back in 2 or 3 months and having to do it all over again. So one, to watch the money part of it, the other piece of it, and probably even more importantly, is to get the work done and get it done right so we don't have to do it twice. So that has been taken off the table. that you have seen a couple months prior, so. And then the bottom line here, the total cost being just a little bit above 22.6 million, and the revenue streams, the 4 different areas that we would get revenue of a little bit higher than the expense of 22,688,000. So there's no action with this. It's just want to keep you informed and keep this in front of you of, we got a lot of stuff going on in our school district, whether it's the lift building or parking lots or high school or a greenhouse at the middle school that we're looking forward to, the students doing at the middle school, greenhouse at the high school, renovations, all of those kind of things to keep our projects going.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah.
Tom? Thank you for, I mean, I think we all want the lots done, but I
Yeah.
appreciate the fact that we're staying within budget and
Mhm.
adjusting projects based on cost. When I look at the February numbers for the lift building, it's 12.7 today, or 12,741, and it was 12,147. So a difference of about 600,000. Do you know what?
That might not, that original number might not have encompassed like the elevator modernizations that are a part of the project, but it's separate from BLDD, which Steve will get into here in a little bit. But that might not have encompassed all of everything that's going into that project. This number does.
And Tom, just for recollection, what was budgeted under that 4 slot previously? Now that we know the actual 478 that the board just approved, what was previously budgeted there? Was it $500,000?
Yes, it was 555,000.
So that's under 77,000.
77,000 less than what we had anticipated.
Okay.
And we're getting a better product with concrete as opposed to, so yeah, that one worked out really well.
And when you shift money, so like you kind of explained,
Mhm.
moving things under FY 22 to 23.
Right.
So those numbers change dramatically. Can you
Yes.
help me understand, like, so when we move from 22 and we put more in 23, what does that mean?
That means that we're gonna get sales tax money between now and June 30th. We still have three more months, or not 3 more months necessarily, 3 more payments of sales tax money. We'll get another check in May. We'll get one the 1st of June. We'll get one towards the end of June. Then we'll take July off. We don't get any sales tax money in July. We'll start up again in August. We anticipate next school year being at least as much as we're getting now. So the total dollars will be a lot more than 1.4. The 2.5 that's showing right there for sales tax, we anticipate that even being more than we are getting right now because of the sales tax numbers. I think I might have told the board last month that it's tracking better than it was. We've actually, as of this morning when we got this 2.5 number, we actually hit it today. So we're getting more sales tax money than we even projected for this budget. But there are other things that we need to make sure that we have those dollars for. This will change somewhat depending on what we get with other monies. As far as, obviously, I don't know what the sales tax money is going to be for next year yet. We try to anticipate that, looking, to the past and seeing what has been traditionally the sales tax. I did it again.
Now you're running the script. Pretty impressive there, Tom.
I don't know what I did there. There we go. So the sales tax money is a projection of what we hope to get next school year. If that makes any sense. Now the expenses with all of these projects, we're anticipating that we'll spend, maybe I'll go over here and I won't hit anything. We're anticipating that we'll spend this, and this, the lion's share being in FY 22. But if we don't get the bills between now and June 30th, then we're not going to spend that money. So then this money that we would have had in 22 to pay the bills that we thought were in 22, that'll now be in 23, this will be shifted to 23. So you'll see an amended budget in May, or a projected tentative amended budget in May to be finalized at the June 30th meeting for FY 22. Then in July, we do a tentative budget for FY 23 that'll be approved in September of 23. Depending on what these bills come in between now and June 30th on these projects, these numbers may go up and down depending on what's needed. And it's just a juggling piece. The knowns are we're gonna spend this amount of money between 22 and 23. I don't know exactly how much is gonna be in 22 and how much exactly is gonna be in 23, but if it ain't in 22, it will be in 23. And we'll adjust the revenue accordingly. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving on. 5.3, board action to lease 1721 Charleston Avenue from Consolidated Communications Incorporated of Illinois. We've recently been approached from our general contractor at Lyft that they need some storage for building materials, door frames, doors, large items that we don't want to put them over and lift while they're doing all the work so that they, don't get damaged or anything. So the building immediately west of this building and the parking lot on the west side of that building is what this lease is talking about. It's been recently cleared of the contents. Dustin's here, and he helped with that, get some things going. That piece of property is now for a lease. The lease amount is $1, and it's good for a year. And at the end of the year, if we still need to keep leasing that, we have a chance to renew that. So the recommendation of the administration is to accept a lease agreement with CCI Consolidated so that we can use that building to store materials that eventually will move over into the Lyft building, but we need storage.
Motion.
Second. Motion by Susie, second by Ashley. Any comments? Can we above that?
I'll give you the dollar.
Okay.
Hey, Tom, one question on
Yeah.
that. You said the parking lot to the
West.
west of that building. Did we already agree to lease that parking lot by itself? If I recall, we needed those parking spaces for the zoning board.
Right, yeah.
Am I dreaming
Yes,
that, or was that?
yes, you're correct. This is to upgrade that lease to add on to, so that both things are under the same lease. So we don't just have a lease with the parking lot, you don't just have a lease with the building, it just combines them into one lease, one thing, one document, and that's all we need to do.
We've been using that parking lot to market for bus drivers.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's,
Now hiring.
yes.
Yeah.
Before I guess I would ask the roll call vote, I'd just like to express on behalf of the district our appreciation to Consolidated. They've been great to work with. They continue to be great to work with. And we appreciate the partnership that they have with us, as well as some folks that have helped Dustin and his team to vacate some of the materials in there in order for us to be able to use this space. So appreciation of it.
Kristen, will you call roll, please?
Kepley?
Yes.
Overton?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Scanlon?
Yes.
Okay, let's see, what number? 5.4, board action to seek bids for the sale of the Grant Park school site. Grant Park, if you remember, is located on Moultrie Avenue, 100 Moultrie Ave, on the kind of the northeast side of town. The property runs the length of DeWitt from First Avenue, on First Avenue from DeWitt all the way over to Moultrie. It's a concrete brick masonry building. It's got 3 classrooms in it. We don't use it. It's got a cafeteria, approximately 4,500 square feet. Was built in 1954. We did have some elementary classes in there up until 2003. And then 2003, when we built the elementary school, the new elementary schools that are now like 20 years old, it was then leased to URBA until 2019 and has been vacant since 2019. Nothing is in there. We would like to recommend that the school board solicit sealed bids for the sale of that property. The steps for this would include placing a notice in the paper and online with the date, time, and minimum acceptable sealed bid. We'd then collect the bids and present those to the board. In a sale of property, you have to have 5 affirmative votes for sale of property. It's a little bit different than a normal board item. And our recommendation is to set the minimum price to sell it at $15,000. Came up with that number based on comparables along DeWitt Avenue of similar size, similar lots, similar buildings, and what their market value looks to be. But we would like to set that minimum bid price at $15,000 and have the bids due at 4 o'clock on Monday, June 6th. And then I would bring those to you at the June 14th board meeting.
Okay, I need a motion and a second. Motion by Ashley, second by Susie. Any comments or questions? All
Yeah,
those-
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had went before the zoning board to see about rezoning this, as you know,
Yeah.
to commercial, thinking maybe it would not necessarily raise the price of the property, but help whoever might buy it already have that step done. So for those of you who knew about that, just to let you know where that went, the zoning board approved it 100%. It then went before the city council, basically was brought up, never got a second, and was shot down for whatever reason. There was mention of a prison might go in there, which would be a very small prison for little bitty people evidently. But for those who was wondering, that's kind of where that went, because we had talked about doing that to try to help whoever might purchase it, have that step done for them if they were looking to make a commercial property. So I just,
And I've talked to several of the city commissioners about that, and I didn't get anywhere.
you know, I didn't either, but I just felt we needed to, for those who knew, we needed to let everybody know that's what happened, because we had talked about rezoning it.
Yeah, and I think just to offer some clarification around that, I think if there's still an interest, if a potential buyer needs that zone differently, that the zoning commission as well as the city council would probably support that. But at least at the time that it was requested for their action, there was no action. So that's where it stood. So we are looking to sell this as an R1 zone property, but would assist the potential buyer in any of the needs to rezone this.
All those in favor of soliciting bids for this, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you. 5.5, board action to approve registration and extracurricular fees for the 22-23 school year. Just to start out by saying there will be no charge to students for breakfast and lunch, similar to as we've done the last couple of years. This box up here is for adult lunch and breakfast that we do charge for. It's not part of the CEP program, which I'll get into in a minute. But these prices are pretty much the same as they've been all along. $3, $2.40 for the milk. That's for adults, for breakfast, lunch, and milk. Just to kind of get into a little bit of this with the student breakfast and lunch, like we talked about before, the community eligibility provision, or CEP, we went into this in September of 2020. This is a program that provides lunch and breakfast to all students at no cost to the students or their families at all whatsoever. We get reimbursement from the government to pay for the program, so that's how we pay Airmark for that, but we don't pass on any of that cost to any of our families. As you can imagine, it's been a great experience. It's been a great benefit to our families, to our most needy at times as well. It takes place at Riddle and Williams Elementaries, the middle school to high school, but it does not take place at Franklin because of the students that we have with the preschool and everything. They're not eligible to participate in that part of the program. They participate in another part of the lunch program, but not in the CEP piece. But again, we don't charge any of our students for any meals or any snacks or anything. We're experiencing an overall increase in revenue at the 4 attendance centers as we've been tracking all along. We continue to keep doing that at no cost for our students and for breakfast and lunch. So that's part of this, but this is the fee structure. These are the same amounts that we've had since the 18-19 school year. You can see what those are, but basically $55 across the board. We get down in here to district-wide fees per sport for extracurriculars is $35. The next line down is per student maximum of $70, and then per family maximum of $140. So if you're a family and you have a number of students and they're involved in a number of activities, the most you're going to have to pay, the absolute most you would pay would be $140. These are the same amounts that we've done for some time. During COVID, we didn't collect for these. We felt that we're hopefully coming out of COVID, so we were hoping to implement the same fees, the same dollar amounts, but start collecting them. So that is our recommendation. I think that's what's on the next slide. Yeah, so that's the recommendation.
Okay, I need a motion and a second to set the fees for the 2022-2023 school year.
Motion.
By Ashley, second.
Second.
By Gary Kathleen.
So if for some reason COVID were to hit random again, which we pray not, it doesn't, I mean, could you come back to us and could we revise
Yeah,
that?
and that would probably, I may be speaking out of turn here without talking to Tim first, but that would probably be our recommendation, is then we would freeze, stop, whatever we need to do, because that's what we did before.
Yeah.
We do have a process in place for families that may not be able to afford this,
Perfect.
so there is a system in place currently.
All those in favor of setting those fees? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Let's see here. This one. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Steve Oliver from BLDD. I think you're starting this right. Or is Clay Clemente?
Let's tag team. You want to just come up there?
Yeah, go ahead. Steve is with BLDD, and Clay is, I'll just let him tell his own story, because he's got a unique story that I think you will all enjoy hearing. I'm Clay Quick. I'm site superintendent for ground level construction. I'll get through the slide and then I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself and where I came from. Forward? Yeah, sure. I think these first two slides are just construction progress. It's moving quickly in the building. It's only fitting the slide moves in order as kind of how we're doing over there. We started demo in the basement, we're working up, and then to follow is with framing and drywall, and all the finishes are moving up through the whole system. So these are some of the pictures. This was the big hot topic in the building. This was the big holes we cut in the 4th floor and the 2nd floor. The 1st floor will go up to the 2nd floor with the big stairwell, and that's kind of the feature point of the building, I feel like. And then the 4th floor, you've got your look through, and you'll have glass handrail around that.
Let's back up real quick. So this again is that hole cut in the floor. So this that stairway that'll go in basically right where Clay was talking about, right in this area right here. So you can see that sort of how it's coming together.
This is just kind of a general demo is just about complete, really. I would call it closer to 100%. Floor cuts are done. Framing is all the way up through 6. Metal studs are up. Door frames are all installed. Air handling units, they should be coming any time now. Modernization is going to start any time now on the elevators. First floor drywall, 2nd floor rough in. Basement, I would say, is probably 60% hung with drywall. We're gonna start drywall probably tomorrow or Friday at the very, very latest on drywall on the 1st floor. So, and that's just gonna continue with that whole progress. It's gonna move all the way up through 6 on that, so. So like I said, we're gonna start in the basement. We're gonna work through all the floors. The basement is your communications floor for your broadcast and recording studios. There's a lot of neat stuff in here. A lot of AV, a lot of conduit, a lot of ductwork. There's some partition types that are particular to this that have as much as 5 layers of drywall, and that's for sound in these areas. So that's a really neat floor with your recording studio and everything. Your 1st floor, move up to 1st floor, you've got your child care. That's probably the biggest footprint change of the entire building. We're adding 6 new exterior doors on that floor. There's a ton that's went on there. There's 2 restrooms getting added on that floor also with the child care. And then as far as exterior on the 1st floor, there's also some site excavation that's going to take place. On the east side, we're going to do a new water tap into the system for the new fire pump, and that's pretty much the 1st floor for right now. 2nd floor is your IT.
It's nice, big, open floor plan, basically. There's a giant IT lab gonna be in the center of it. It'll be a good space for all the students to work, and that's just kind of some of the pictures you're looking at there. The ductwork's going in right now. The rough end's pretty much done on that floor, electrical wise. Framing's just about all done. Third floor is your HVAC, clean energy. It's neat because you can see, so that would be, this picture would be standing on the fourth floor looking down into the third floor. That's the big hole cut in the floor there. Again, it's a pretty open floor plan. It's got 3 overhead doors for students to play with and learn and mess with on there, and that'll be a good learning floor for them too. My favorite, obviously, because what I got into is the construction trades. So I'm all about this floor. I spent a lot of time up here, wishing I had it when I was at this age. You know? It's awesome. It's got your big look-throughs down on the third floor. There's going to be, it's nice too. The whole design from you guys is kind of open floor. We've got partition walls where you're going to have your work booths and workstations, but they're only like 6 foot tall, so you can see across the entire floor. It's really nice and open, and it's cool space.
Yeah.
You move up to 5th floor. That's kind of your classrooms. There's some neat design up there with some angled walls. There's conference rooms. I think there's the 2 big meeting rooms on that floor. That's pretty much where you're gonna have your conferences and all your meetings. There's on 5. 6 is another really neat floor. It's gonna be culinary arts and hospitality. There's a ton of there's a full kitchen. There's gonna be indoor, outdoor dining on this floor. There's a walk-in cooler that we're gonna set on the roof. If we missed anything on that floor.
There's
It's good.
Justin, our facilitator,
Yeah.
smiling at you.
Yeah.
Might be the last one, construction.
I think so. The impact on the region, a job like this has a huge impact, and really right now in the community in general, with what's going on at the high school and everything else. We've got Davis Hope Mechanical. I get all my concrete from Matthew Ready Mix, Kirshner Building Center, Commercial Electric, Upchurch Groups, who does all my concrete testing. I mean, it's just, and then not to mention all the workers you have using restaurants and everything else, hotels in this area. It's great for Mattoon in general. And then you come into Grunlow, which is where I kind of come into play. I was a 2010 Mattoon grad, and then I went to Lakeland College for construction management and surveying, which when I was in high school, I put in to get into the Carpenters Union, Carpenters Local, and it was slow at that time, so I didn't hear anything. Went to Lakeland, got through Lakeland, and then I went to work for Morton Buildings for about a year doing pole barns, and I finally got the big letter to come test for the union. So got that, went tested, got accepted, and then I graduated the apprenticeship 2014. I worked for Precision Builders for most of that time as a carpenter, and then the last 3-4 years as a foreman carpenter. And then I got word that Grunlow was looking for site superintendents, and that has always kind of been my career path that I wanted to go towards. So I started applying with them and calling them a million times, driving them nuts. And they finally gave me an interview, and then that kind of led to where I stand today. So it's pretty neat to be a part of this community, and born and raised in Mattoon, be standing here in front of all my peers. And I'm proud, I'm excited. This building means a lot to me for sure. So.
And I do want to say, before I even cover my part, I want to say that Clay and Troy and the Grunlow team has done an amazing job, a really great job at this point in the project. As we all knew to start with, this was a really short construction window. We had a tight construction schedule. These guys have been on top of things. I mean, you layer on top of that the crazy supply chain delay issues we're all dealing with across this industry. And these guys have really been on top of it, really looking ahead at the long lead time items, looking at how we can move things up. At this point, schedule-wise, we're as good as we could be given the current situation, and we're on schedule to be ready. It's going to be down to the wire. I mean, these guys, I'm sure, are going to be working until the last possible day, but hopefully, we're not going to have any wrench thrown in this in terms of any other material delay that we don't know of right now. So things are looking really good. They've done a fantastic job. So just kudos to these guys and to Clay. So A couple other things, just for board update, I want to talk about 3 sort of budget things, just to sort of give you some perspective. I know when the board probably voted on this project, you took a bit of a risk in this scale of project and sort of knowing what that means. And so I just, to put things in perspective, to know if you guys had waited a year to delay this project a year, you probably would have paid another $1.5 million to $2 million for the exact same building. And we had another project, for example, it's a little under $9 million that went on hold the end of 2019, like December 2019. They brought it back to life November of 2021. And literally that was going to be a 30% increase, exact same building, another $2.5 million to get the exact same building. So sometimes I know it's helpful to look back as a board and say, we took some risks then, but it paid off what we would if we would have just delayed that year. It might have put it outside your ability to afford it, or at least would have cost you a lot more money. So just put that in perspective. The other things on the budget, we had set aside in that original budget a $300,000 construction contingency to be used during construction for unknown conditions. When you get into an old building, you're always going to run into things, and if you've done home remodeling, you know what that looks like. To this point in the project, we've had some unknowns, but we've also had some credits, some unexpected credits, some things that based on lead time material changes that we made to fit the schedule and some clarification on some of the design requirements from the code intents, the credits have actually offset all the adds to this point. So we're basically at a 0, and we've got through the demolition and through a lot of the rough end, which is where you usually find most of those unknowns. So to this point, that $300,000 is still maintained. You're still going to have some of that as you finish out the project, but that is an unusual position to be in at this point in the project. The third thing budget related is we've also, our interior designer worked with the MedTune team to select all the furniture for the building. Basically got everything we hoped for and a little more than we thought we could afford. It all came in under the original budget that we set a year ago before we even knew kind of what was in the building. So that's exciting. That furniture is scheduled to be installed in 3 installs. So Grunlow's construction is going to be finishing out floors from the bottom up. So as they get the basement and first floor finished out, we'll have the furniture delivered into those 2 floors. As second, third get finished out, the furniture will come into those, and then 4th, 5th, and 6th that'll be installed. So basically, we know it's going to be tight. So as those floors get ready, they'll be finishing up some of the details. Furniture will come in so that we can take advantage of every day for construction. So that's all good news. A couple other things, just updates. Some things you haven't seen. This is all part of the project. This is what we call the environmental graphics in the building. So this is dealing with signage, wayfinding, branding within the building. So these are just a few of the selected images of some of the graphics that are going to go in some of the different areas of the building. So this is in the communications lobby on the north side. This is some of the wall graphics that are going to go on there. Again, really carrying the theming, the branding, the logos throughout the building. This is on the construction trades floor. Some of the floor patterns that's going to go in that, again, to just speak to that area. 3rd floor collaboration area. This is some of the wall graphics in there where there's the hole cut between the floor. So that graphics is going to extend up into the hole. This is looking at the north wall, that grand staircase going up to the 1st floor where we're going to have the logo. We're going to have the, basically the, what's the word I'm looking for? Mascots. Thank you. Mascots for the different school districts that are participating in this program. So really to recognize them as well. Just some more in the manufacturing level, again, where we're taking the logo and theming throughout and doing some branding and some messaging throughout there really to bring a lot of interest to the building. And then last but not least, this is the exterior signage that, again, our graphic designer came up with. So these are just images, and this is being priced right now through the local sign company, Monitor Sign Service. And so they're putting together a proposal. So this would be a backlit and illuminated signage, and then taking that sort of logo piece that goes throughout those environmental graphics and really put this high branding up on the building as well. And I think it could be really nice. So this is in the process of being priced out, and so we should be having that number shortly. So just wanted to bring you an update of where we're at, and any questions that I can answer, I'd be glad to try to do that now.
Yeah, looking forward
We're
to
super
it.
excited. We're really excited about what this is.
Are those pieces illuminated?
Yes, actually, so these are like front illuminated letters, and then the logo and this are back illuminated. So at night, they'll sort of glow from behind. So it'll really be a neat effect at night.
Come a
Any
long
other-
way since February of 21.
Yeah, actually, it was a year ago, I think, it was at the
Yep,
April board
it was.
meeting, when the board was acquiring the property, so.
Yeah.
A lot has been
A lot has
accomplished.
happened
and-
in a very short amount of time.
I mean, I just hired my demo crew in January.
I want to say too, that to these guys' credit, to all the different contractors, we have weekly meetings. Every Thursday, there's a weekly meeting, whether it's a Zoom or in person. And these guys are on top of it. I mean, you talk about knowing their stuff. It would be cool for you guys, maybe Clay, even to come back and talk to a class and go over your story and go over how this works. 'Cause it's, from an educator perspective, watching you guys talk your talk during these meetings, it's impressive. And I really want to point out that these guys know their stuff, and all the trades up and down, like Clay said, from commercial, Grunlow, everybody's right on top of it. There's not a missing link in the bunch. So
And that's exactly what we're gonna be producing
Yeah.
at that building, and that's, so exciting.
Thank you.
Very good.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
guys.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Question, as we move forward with the lift building, will we have a board member is titled Larry Lilly, like a senior project manager or represents the school district, will he be presenting it all to us?
he's kind of running the meetings I was talking about, the weekly meetings. He's the one that's sort of in charge of that and reporting back. And he's sort of the go-between what Tim has questions or Christie, the questions that we might have on a day-to-day basis. He goes to the Grunlows or whoever, Troy or whoever with Grunlow, and says, well, here's a concern that we have, goes over, talks to them, comes back. So that frees up their time to do other things in the district. And he's just sort of the go-between. I don't know that there's necessarily any presentation that he might do, because he's mostly on a day-to-day basis doing that with these guys, so.
And he, similar to Dustin and Dustin's role as the facilities director for the district, that's what Larry's kind of taken some of that capacity with there. So it is more on a day-to-day approach, but we can certainly look into that if that's your request.
I think it would be good to hear from him, and certainly as a representative of the district and what he's experiencing.
Thank you. Item 6, reports and recommendation to the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Stossing.
Thank you. The board has before them the April personnel report. As we go through it, item 6.1A, certified resignation. Karen Gilbert resigning from preschool teacher effective at the end of the 21-22 school year. Michelle Newman Hartbank is retiring at the end of the 21-22 school year. Matthew High School FACS teacher. As you remember, I'll recall you approved her retiring, I think the 23-24 school year. She's opted to go a little bit earlier, so she'll be retiring this year. She's been in the district at the end of her service 32 years, so very happy and excited for her. Sonia Waddles, Matthew Middle School physical ed teacher, will be retiring at the effective the end of the 23-24 school year. And again, she would have completed 32 years of service at that time in our district, our students and community, so will be greatly missed. Certified appointments. Brenda Bell, recommending her for hire as William Elementary School first grade teacher effective 22-23 school year. Shelby Hendricks, recommending as Franklin preschool teacher effective 22-23 school year. Brandon Jones, recommending him as Mattoon High School physical education teacher effective for the 22-23 school year. And Haley Losham, we're recommending as a Franklin preschool teacher effective for the 22-23 school year. As we continue to certified appointments, you'll see a couple substitute teachers here, along with Emily Novak, recommending her as district psychologist intern effective for the 22-23 school year. Moving forward, item 6.1C, classified retirement rescissions. You'll see that we were asking you to rescind two retirements that you acted upon in the last couple of months. One being Lori Collins, paraprofessional at Franklin Preschool. I'd like to be employed again and continue your employment for the 22-23 school year. And then again with Debbie Davis, athletic secretary at Mattoon High School, again requesting the board to rescind her resignation for the 22-23 school year. That's happened before in the past. When that happens, the board has the option, if there's extenuating circumstances and people submit their letter, to do so. Both situations, that was the case. So brought to the board asked to rescind that. Great employees, worked in the district for a long, long time. we need good people. Human resource guy here saying, please, act on that. Then we'll move forward. Okay, item 6.1D, classified resignations. Susan Maurer, Franklin Preschool career professionals, resigning effective the 21-22 school year. Mike Bensley, longtime bus driver here in the district, will retire November 11th, 2022. At that time, he has driven the bus for us for 19 years in our district and our students, so it would be great to miss. Kaylee Doyle resigning as Little Elementary School Secretary effective March 31st, 2022. This one hurts here. Karen Moran, retiring as Administrative Service Center Tech Secretary, the woman you call here all the time, and she answers the phone, and any tech issue, she addresses, and has been our go-to person, our comfort voice when we call her and we're stressing out. After 31 years working here at the district office for the district, so she will be great in this. We're happy. It's effective August 1st of 2022.
Unless we can get her to rescind.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Classified appointments, we continue. Jamie Boyer, Franklin Preschool Birth to 3 Secretary. Carla Sylvester, retiree, came back, substitute paraprofessional. I'm happy to have her. Page, and then you'll see some volunteers as we finish that up. Item 6.1F. You can vote no on this one separately if you want to. Amanda Ite, resigning as Manton High School head varsity girls basketball coach effective immediately. I really struggle about putting that out. We understand. Again, thank you. You've done a wonderful job. I'm just happy you're still in the district as a PE teacher around kids and help them learn and grow. So you'll be surely missed. You might come asking about that position. Ashley Manning resigning as a Manton High School yearbook sponsor effective at the end of the 21-22 school year. And the next curricular assignment, 6.1G, Brandon Jones, recommending him for hire as head boys varsity basketball coach effective for the 22-23 school year. In addition to that, there's an addendum. Brittany Rader recommending as William Elementary School special ed teacher effective the 22-23 school year. Classified appointments will be continued here. Shelby Burris as Rural Elementary School Secretary effective April 19th of 2022. Jessica Jordan as Middle School Principal Secretary effective April 19th of 2022. And then Angie Green as Bus A effective immediately. Anthony Nichols, retired chief, fire chief, coming in and subbing for us as recommend him to sub as a custodian in our district effective immediately. Extracurricular resignations, Troy Hackey, again, I was going to say no on this, but you're here, keeping me honest. Team Massive, our high school student section sponsor, is resigning effective the 21-22 school year. He's done a great job with that over the years, and we appreciate that as well. And then lastly, extracurricular assignments, Brett Foreman recommending him to hire as head boys golf coach effective for the 22-23 school year. Are there any questions?
Just one. The
Yes, sir.
basketball coach, is he previous coaching experience?
Yep, Champaign Central. And prior to that, South Carolina. And made some runs in state series.
Thank you. How many vacancies have you filled and how many are left? I know it's a hard question.
49 vacancies thus far for this upcoming school year. 49 vacancies, 42 of them in fill, so there's 7 vacancies remaining. So that's about an 87% fill rate right now. I still have one of the 4 math teachers at the high school to fill, but we're doing that. We filled 3, which that's like a miracle. Find a math teacher, so we're doing well.
I need a motion and a second to approve the personnel report.
Second.
By Ashley and by Susan. Are there any questions, comments? Will you please call the roll?
Larson?
Yes.
Kepley? Overton? Yes. Brun?
Yes.
Hedges? Skibble?
Yes. Item 7, reports and recommendations of the Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. Dr. Hill, you are.
Yes, and Jamie Holt has some papers for me, but I left them on the sheet. Thank you. So remember this like lazy, hazy days of summer? That's a thing of the past. So we're sharing some really exciting learning opportunities with the board and community tonight. Really excited about what our team has come up with to offer our students and families this summer. And so tonight's presentation is kind of to give you an overview of that. There will be no action on summer programming tonight. You'll have a month to ask questions. We will ask for action on a memorandum of understanding with one of our partners, which I will get to.
So just an overview quickly. As a reminder, we are utilizing ESSERS 2, which is actually CARES, and the American Recovery Plan, which was ESSERS 3, funds to help us do a lot of the work that you're going to see tonight. We also have a couple partners this year, and one of those is the Illinois Tutoring Initiative, which is the collegiate version of ESSERS. So they also got some money to help with learning recovery efforts in the PK through 12 sector. So the summer learning opportunities will occur at all of our campuses, including Franklin Preschool. We're adding this year, super excited about that. So our littlest learners will also have a head start starting in the fall. So we will be serving students and their families the entire month of June and the entire month of July. The way that that's going to work, preschool and elementary times will be from 8 to 11:45. You can see the middle school is about a 15-minute shift, and the high school is a little bit later. Those times will be consistent for all the sessions we're going to talk about. Breakfast and lunch will continue to be provided at no cost to our students. The district will be reimbursed through that community eligibility provision that Tom talked about earlier. And actually, our times are a little different this year because in order for that to happen, students will need to eat lunch on site. So last summer, we sent them home with a brown bag. This summer, they're going to come in, eat breakfast, and then before they leave, they'll eat lunch as well. So we'll be serving 2 meals on site every day. Transportation will also be provided for families at no cost to the family. And the programming includes some remediation, of course. We've also expanded our enrichment programming for families this summer based on some student interest data and also just figuring out kind of what kids are really drawn to in those exploratory classes. Really excited about the partnerships that we're going to be utilizing this summer, which is an expansion on what we've done last summer. So those partnerships include Golden Apple Scholars, Fab Lab, which I'm going to talk about, and the Illinois Tutoring Initiative. So what is Golden Apple? For those of you that aren't familiar, Golden Apple is a very prestigious program throughout the state of Illinois, and it basically targets pre-service teachers and gives them hands-on experiences with students in an instructional format through the summer. Students are actually awarded a scholarship throughout their college experience to be a Golden Apple Scholar. And part of that is that they commit to serving students in areas of need. It's facilitated with one of our educators, and we're really fortunate in our district to have several Golden Apple Scholars. Our very own Gina Kraft, who was just recognized as an EIU Rising Star, actually took over this whole program coordination. And so we're lucky to have these student leaders on site. The Illinois Tutoring Initiative is a new partnership. This actually is through Illinois State University, and the way that it works is that they will provide funding for up to 40 tutors to provide what's called high impact tutoring. And so it's like 1-to-1 or 1 to a very small group. Tim and I were talking, we used to have a program in the district called Reading Recovery, which was very similar to this structure. Because Illinois State University wrote the grant, they get federal dollars to support this program. The really exciting thing is that we hire local community members to be trained, to be paid to do that. So in order for us to do this, they're going to provide the training to people that are hired, and then the services will be provided through the summer and into the fall. So we're working with our academic coaches right now to figure out how to embed this high impact tutoring in the day for an extra dose for our students to continue those learning recovery efforts. We're going to come back to this in just a minute because it does require an agreement with Illinois State University at no cost, but there's some student information that's exchanged. But first, the Fab Lab. Has anybody heard of Fab Lab? I hadn't either. It's Fab. It's at the University of Illinois. Actually, this is a student group at the University of Illinois. They are really into engineering, science, technology, and so the Fab Lab is this group of student leaders at the University of Illinois, and they provide STEAM-specific week-long camps for school districts. Lincoln Land Credit Union is actually going to partner with them to fund that so our students can participate. So that's a great partnership, and we're really thankful for that. But these people also helped with our STEAM program, K through 5.
for us to know specifically like what is industries, what's going on in the industry and what will work really well with kids. So we're bringing them down too. Let's talk about summer at Franklin Preschool, those little cuties. So Franklin Preschool is going to offer all of this. I'm like, preschool was a dream, like 5-6 years ago. And now here we are not only offering this huge, amazing preschool, we're gonna do stuff in the summer. So they're gonna have fifth quarter, which is all of June. They're gonna have Jumpstart, which is July. We have 7 district staff members who are going to provide these services. We have Golden Apple Scholars, Illinois Tutoring Initiative, and the target for preschool is to serve 50 to 60 incoming, probably mostly incoming kindergartners, right, Jim? Yeah, okay. Williams and Riddle both look very similar. There's slight differences, but at Williams, they'll have fifth quarter as well, which is kind of a continuation of learning from the 21-22 school year. We'll also have Jumpstart. 14 district staff members are willing to do this in the summer. And we have such great people. I mean, after the time that we've had, they're willing to continue because they just love working with our kids. STEAM Camp will also be hosted on site here for the U of I Fab Lab. The Golden Apple Scholars will be here, Illinois Tutoring Initiative will be here, and the target at Williams is 120 students. 120 students that will get that opportunity. Riddle, also awesome stuff happening. Here's some of our programming from last year. Again, we'll do fifth quarter and Jumpstart. We have 8 district staff members who've signed up to help. We have the same partners, and we're also hoping to serve 120 students there. So altogether, that's 240 elementary students who will have at no cost, have instruction, 2 meals, and transportation every day, Monday through Friday. At Mattoon Middle School, the fun continues. They're also going to have June and July. They have 10 district staff members. Something new at the middle school this year are some STEAM and coding programming that's been super popular. And so the way that they've organized that is a kind of a week-long camps where families can pick what works best with their vacation schedules, sign up, and it's at no cost. Their target is between 100 and 130 students. The high school, wow. So the high school has probably traditionally been our busiest campus with summer school, and it's no different. They're going to offer fifth quarter, which is a continuation of learning. And I just want to take a second and celebrate some data at the high school. We had a data meeting this morning, and their the list of students who are currently failing classes has been reduced to like 70. And at the beginning of the year, we were well over that. So they have done a great job collectively at developing student success plans, working one-on-one with students. So we're looking at the students who may not get all of their classes up to passing, giving them opportunities to do so in fifth quarter. Those letters have already gone out, so kids are aware. We also will do course completion in econ, in government, driver's ed, and health as we have in the past. We'll have the same partnerships here, no Fab Lab, just Golden Apple and Illinois Tutoring Initiative. We have 10 staff members who've signed up to help, and check out that target. 250 students will be served at no cost, continuing their learning or completing their learning from this school year. I'm going to give this to the board because it's tiny. Actually, Dave, would you mind just passing that along? There's a kind of a cover sheet. So really the high level here, what I want you all to know is the budget for summer school expenditures in ESSER's money is $250,000. We're coming in at $245,000, and that's a high estimate because that's estimating that all of the employees are certified staff members, and they are not. So we'll be well under that, but this just gives the board kind of a breakdown. So before next month, when this is on the consent agenda, you'll have some time to look through that. Call if you have questions, and we can kind of talk through that. I noted over here on the side, though, what we're getting at no cost. The Golden Apple, Illinois Tutoring Initiative, and Fab Lab. So those things come to us as a partnership, people wanting to join us in investing in our students. So take some time to check that out. And again, the budget is $250,000 out of those 2 ESSERs. I do want to draw attention to a few people that made this possible. We have an awesome team, and it's all of the people, but these specific individuals helped coordinate the details. So what I can do up here in 10 slides represents hours of work and letters and analyzing student data and talking to families and figuring out schedules and recruiting and I mean, tons of stuff, and our building administrators are part of that, but Jamie Holt has coordinated this at Franklin. She's got Amanda kind of helping her too. Nikki Renshaw at Riddle, Rachel Stewart at Williams, Nikki Moss at Middle School, Kara Stewart at the high school, and April Drake. April Drake at Riddle, she's our STEAM teacher. She actually is the one who made the initial contact with the Fab Lab and has incorporated them into our STEAM classes. And she continued that partnership so that they're gonna come in the summer too. So rock stars, total rock stars.
I believe her husband works at Lincoln Land too, which probably.
Well, that explains it. Okay, so a couple things. Board action. I'm gonna come back to this, but real quick, next month, what I just walked through will be on the consent agenda. So we can ask questions about it tonight, or we can ask questions anytime between now and May about the programming. But tonight, I'm gonna recommend approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Illinois Tutoring Initiative. I gave you guys a copy of the whole thing if you want to see it. What it's asking is that we as a board exchange information with the Illinois Tutoring Initiative so they can match tutors with students. So in order for us to exchange that information, we have to enter into an agreement with the Illinois Tutoring Initiative. Again, that's at no cost to the district. So they're going to hire local people, pay them $30 an hour for tutoring, and we just have to give them permission to know, like for our coaches or our people to say, these are the kids that have been recommended. So I do need to ask for action on that, but I'd have to answer any questions about it.
I need a motion and a second to approve that. John Hedges, second by Susie. Are there any questions?
Can you tell us, Christy, like what kind of data are they looking for?
Yeah, so like if kids have low reading scores, specifically like math data, like what are the things that we feel like they need to work on with them? Grades, if they have low grades in certain areas, if there's work that needs to be completed. Our math data in Dreambox and Reflex Math will be able to share so that basically so the tutoring can be that high impact tutoring, so it's more targeted as opposed to just saying like these kids are behind and then they don't have as much target. So that's what it will be, student data.
And do parents
Achievement data.
consent for that?
Yes.
Chris, will you comment?
Overton? Yes. Ron?
Yes.
Hedges?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Scanlon?
Yes. Item 8, reports and recommendation of the superintendent. Mr. Condren,
Yeah,
you
I guess
are-
just to kind of transition from what Chris was just sharing, it's almost 700 students that we're able to offer additional programming for the summer. And I think back to Mr. Arnold's days at the middle school, running summer school, to Mr. Schaefer's days at the high school. And we probably had anywhere from 200 to 300 students involved in that. So to be over 2.5 times that size, those opportunities for our students, I think is pretty impressive. So, and as Christy alluded to, all of that is being done based upon some federal dollars that we received that it is earmarked specifically for to help student learning. So as we start to think about next school year, just wanted to share and seek board action to make sure that we can continue to meet and have some fun and do some really cool things for kids. So over the course of the next year, these would be the tentative dates that I'd ask for you to solidify moving forward. And you can see there's some remaining dates with May and 2 in June for this fiscal year. And then starting our FY23 fiscal year, July 12th. To note, there is a change from the second Tuesday that is typically the second Tuesday of the month in November due to the now election holiday on November 8th. So the suggestion from Board President Skinlow was to move that to November 15th, the following week. So with that, would ask the board to take action on the upcoming dates.
I have a motion. By Ashley, second.
Second.
By Susie.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have any other information for you, no new, no executive, so I need a motion to adjourn at 9:02. I think you're in a hurry. Who made the motion?
Ashley.
Ashley, second by Susie. Please call roll.
Ron?
Yes.
Hedges? Larson? Stephanie? Overton? Yes.
Yes. Enjoy your spring break.
Yeah.